Hey, you guys, welcome back to Guardian of the Woods. This is Zach. Before I kick off tonight's story, I want to remind you again October's almost over, so please enroll in my monthly giveaway. You have about, I think, a week or if not under a week. I haven't checked it lately, but you still have a chance to win. That link is below. Also, as well, I want to ask you if you have a personal encounter story, please send it to me. I'm going to add my link to my email below. So if you have a really cool encounter story and you're willing to let me share it with the world, get a hold of me. I would love to share it. And also, if there's certain things you don't want me to say, get a hold of me. I'll give you my personal contact info and we'll talk one on one and we'll talk about it. All right. With that said, I'll go on into tonight's story. Tonight's story is titled Campers Chased Out by Bigfoot near Willow Creek, California. There are many people that would hike back into what I would call, well, the birthplace of Bigfoot. The place where many of all around the world got their very first glimpse of what we all know as Bigfoot on a hand cranked 60mm camera by one guy with his friend looking for this mythical creature in the deep surrounding woods of Northern California. From a non-believer to a believer in 24 hours, if you ask me, I think it's a little much for one person to handle. My story began one morning. My brother-in-law and I left the town of Eureka, California. We headed east to Willow Creek, California on the morning of June 5th, 2012. It only took us about an hour and a half to get there, but once my brother-in-law and I had gotten there, my brother-in-law's friend has a little piece of land off Highway 96 that we're going to call our home for the next 2 nights. That's all I can say about the exact location due to the owner and the privacy of the land. We really didn't know what to expect, since I've never been to this piece of land, and my brother-in-law's never been to this area. But we planned on being there for 2 nights, so we packed up enough necessities to be there for 2 nights, and we hit the road. We arrived at the camp around 12 that afternoon. By the looks of it, no one else has been up there anywhere near this area, well, at least for a while. We set up a few quick things, unloaded the truck, and we hit the trails. Like I said, this was my brother-in-law's first trip into this area, and he was pretty excited and anxious to see what kind of country was available to us out here. We hiked and explored until about 5 that evening. We returned to set up camp, at least enough to keep us warm for that night. While doing so, I had noticed a broken tree branch a little alongside our camp that I had not noticed before. With further inspection, I was immediately taken back. I don't know if it's worth noting, but the tree break was facing directly at our campsite. If you ask me, I think I was looking at my first tree break. There's nothing more to say about that. We went on with our night. We had a great time, we had dinner, and we went ahead and set up our cots and our tents. After that, we went ahead and went to bed. At this time, for some reason, that tree branch was in my mind a lot. I started feeling a little awkward about our situation up there, but I went ahead, set it aside, and tried to sleep. It wasn't more than 10 to 15 minutes tops when I laid my head down that I started hearing the stomping of brush and leaves around my tent area. What it was it sounded like it was being pressed down by, I would say, feet. It was still moving very stealth-like, and it was creeping up to our tents. It was directly behind both of our tents, but it stopped right behind mine. While I was trying to lie there and contemplate and decipher what exactly I was hearing and what was there, I noticed the center of my tent slowly being pushed down right in the middle. Me noticing that and freaking out immediately, I reacted. What I did was I went ahead and I swatted at the area, the part of the tent that was being hit, or pressed down slowly. Once I did so, whatever I hit was solid. In fact, it hurt my hand. The tent went back up immediately, and whatever I hit shuffled back pretty quick with a quick It was low, but at that time, I was shocked as hell. At that time, I was frozen. I was paralyzed in fear. This went on for a minute. I tried to wake my brother-in-law up, trying to be as loud as I could because he was literally right next to me in his tent. No luck. During one of the silent periods, the one behind me literally started urinating 1 foot from my head. That put a whole new level of freaked out inside of me. The volume of the urination was literally 2 to 3 times louder than any man I have ever known. Me, especially. If I were to think about it, I think it sounded a lot like a horse, if not a large bull, urinating right next to my head as I'm lying down on the ground. Like I said, no man can make that noise, especially me. And I'm 6'3", 294 pounds. And this thing was pissing right next to my head. To give you a better feel about it, it made me feel like a child. What happened next is what turned me from a complete skeptic to a complete believer of the Sasquatch. Also realizing from the surrounding noises, there wasn't just one. If I were to guess, I would guess maybe 2, 3, who knows, 4 surrounding our camp area. After it had urinated, I was really freaking out, and honestly, I was 1 to 2 steps away from having a complete breakdown. I was shaking like a leaf, tears rolling down my face, and my nose running like a child. No, I'm not ashamed to say that at all. It was truly the scariest thing that has ever happened in my life. And it was happening 25 miles from nowhere, the middle of the woods in the dark, with multiple Sasquatches surrounding our campsite. It got quiet again, at least for a short time. Then I started breathing deeply and heavily. So again, I started trying to attempt to wake up my brother-in-law. Nope, nothing. This time I had a real menacing sound to it, and then the other 2 swatted at my tent at the same time. Again, it got quiet, but this time it was from the front of me. They moved to the front of our tent, backed up a bit, and they started throwing, I think, rocks or some kind of debris at the front of our tents. Again, it stopped. After that, the 2 behind my brother-in-law's tent moved back quite a bit, it seemed like. They started throwing our firewood around and stomping on the ground, breaking tree limbs like crazy. But the worst part of all of this is stupid me. I didn't grab my gun or my flashlight out of my truck. I wasn't expecting any of this to happen that night. My truck was about 10 to 12 yards from our tents. I sucked it up. I got the guts, slowly unzipped the tent, and ran like hell to the truck. When I reached the passenger side of the door, I grabbed the flashlight, whipped around with it with the light on, and literally 6 to 7 yards from me was the silhouette of an upright, standing, 2-legged hairy man with a slightly cone-shaped head. It appeared to be moving left to right, and it wasn't directly facing me at all. Then it stepped behind the tree it was standing next to. At that time, I damn near tore the truck door off just to grab my gun, which was in the center console. At that time, I was freaking out bad. What happened after that was I grabbed my gun, turned my flashlight on again, whipped around, nothing. The creature I saw literally a second or 2 earlier was nowhere to be seen. Me, knowing it was spent a lot braver with my gun, I walked out to the road where I saw this creature. I seen the tracks, but to me the tracks looked a little bit torn up. There's no definitive toes in it. It was just all a bunch of mushed up prints because of the area I was around was not there's no firmness to it whatsoever. It looked like torn up dirt to me. All of it was just way too soft to even maintain any kind of track. After walking around for a while and not seeing anything, I began to half-heartedly convince myself I was hearing things. Maybe I was seeing things. It's been a long day anyways. So I did all I can do. I climbed back into my tent and lied there, feeling much safer now with my gun to my side. Hearing nothing more, morning finally came. As we both came out of our tents, I began to lay into my brother-in-law pretty heavy. I was asking him how and why. Why wouldn't you wake up? How could you not wake up with all that noise going around our campsite? He looked at me with a convinced look, and he literally had no clue what had happened last night. I told him everything. That's when I found out that he takes a sleeping medication due to his insomnia. Everything around a campsite seemed to be untouched. Well, minus the firewood being thrown around. At that point, we decided to pack up camp, and we sure in the hell were not going to stay there another night. While doing so, we cranked some music. The noise was so loud, whatever was in that mountainside had to have heard it. At least it seen us, and it sure in the hell knew we were leaving. It was about 10 to 15 minutes after we were almost loading up. I turned around and I talked to my brother-in-law. As I was talking to him, I noticed some movement at my upper right, about 35 yards away from that low ridgeline on the north side of the camp. I turned around, and sure enough, there we were, staring right into the face of a Sasquatch. And that Sasquatch was staring right back at us. It was around 8:30 in the morning, and there it was, standing against a cloudless, piercing blue sky. It had to have wanted us to see it. It didn't appear to be trying to hide whatsoever. It had purposely skylined itself. That right there is something that everything in the animal kingdom knows to not do. That's without a doubt the easiest and surest way to get yourself spotted. I would say the stare down lasted about 4 seconds or so. Then it slowly turned around and then ran down into the tree line. This thing was fast though. It always stayed really low to the ground. From what I noticed about it, it had burnt auburn cinnamon colored hair and covered everything from what I saw, which was from the torso up. It had thinner looking hair on the chest and thicker on the arms. If I were to guess, the hair on the arms is at least 4 to 5 inches longer. The face had a wide, smashed down looking nose with piercing dark eyes that looked recessed back into the head more than you or I. The exposed skin on the face was lighter, definitely darker on the buckskin kind of coloration to the chest. It had a low, wide mouth and jawline that seemed to me to be very robust, with a slight cone-shaped head that seemed to come directly out of the shoulders, with no visible neck. It had very wide shoulders that were probably two, if not of me, with very large pectoral muscles. This is what made me realize that we're dealing with a male Sasquatch. At this time, we loaded the rest of our stuff up, and we got the hell out of there. Needless to say, I'm going to be honest, I'll never go camping there again, or actually near Willow Creek ever for the rest of my life. And yes, honestly, I can say the stories about Willow Creek area and Bigfoot are 100% true. That right there is my encounter story. Take it or leave it. Thank you, Mark.